Where on the fence do you sit in relation to business automation, customer nurturing, asset creation, building a database, so on and so forth? In this podcast, I take a slightly different format with a colleague and friend of mine, Jon from Smallfish, and we're talking just about that. Jon's always been has a slightly different approach to or belief when it comes to how you can nurture your existing customers. And coming from a digital background, of course, I had some perspective on how we like to do things these days. So this is a conversation between he and I about how businesses today, trade businesses specifically, should be approaching the topic of building assets, using automation and re-engaging with their customers. It's a fantastic conversation. It was a lot of fun to record. I'm sure you guys are going to really enjoy this. And of course, if you need any more help or you want to get in touch with us in relation to anything that we talked about today in relation to automation, you can head across to tradiewebguys.com.au. We set companies up with this all the time, and it's a really handy tool in the business arsenal. If you want to be part of the conversation, guys, you can head across to the SiteShed group. Much of these conversations come out of there, and Jon's actually in the group too. So when you see this go live, you can ask questions and you can pick his brain as you can mine. Anyway, guys, enjoy the show. That's a wrap. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the SiteShed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Jon Dale, welcome back to the microphone.
Thank you, Matt. It's nice to see you again.
Good to be chatting to you in 2020.
Yes, I love a new year. All hot and sticky.
And of course, everyone on my side of the fence here is going to be familiar with Jon Dale from Smallfish. Coaching from episodes 202, 205, 206 on the SiteShed podcast. If you haven't yet had the chance to check that out, please go ahead and do so, because you will get a wonderful insight into the wisdom that is the infamous Jon Dale.
Thanks, Matt. Now, this conversation started a little while ago, didn't it? When we had a chat about email marketing for tradies.
It's been called a lot of things: conversations, discussions, arguments.
Argument. It was a bit of an argument.
Yeah, it did.
Well, we were talking about marketing, weren't we? And I know that I have a particular position that I take with my coaching clients about how they should do their marketing. And thus far, for most of them, email marketing hasn't been part of what I recommend. Mm-hmm. I've been inclined to say email marketing's great, but if I think about it from a tradie's perspective, it's quite a big investment, and I've been saying I'm not sure it's worth it.
Yep.
And you disagree?
Well, depending on the business, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm more an advocate of the technology behind email marketing and the value it can add from a business perspective, as opposed to the actual physical sending out emails. And we'll get into that in this conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah, you think it has a place, right?
Yeah.
I've been saying not so much. You think a bit more. We have a disagreement, and we thought it would be intriguing to air our disagreements, see if we can come to a considered position that we agree on.
Exactly. It's like a digital arm wrestle.
Yeah, it is.
And so I think it's important as well, like, to set a preface with all the viewers and listeners out there. And, you know, I've said it multiple times on the podcast in the past. There's no right or wrong with marketing. And you could have two businesses working in an exact parallel that are very similar. And one thing could work very well for one, doesn't work very well for the other. And I think anyone that tells you, it's very much a test and measure situation. And obviously I run a digital agency called Tradie Web Guys, and we do websites and we do marketing and all that kind of stuff for trade businesses. And that's something that we've noticed is quite evident across the board. Different businesses will get different results, and it falls back on a number of different variables. It can be the type of customer, it could be the brand that the business operates under, and all these different things, which I'm sure we're going to dive into a little bit further.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I've had the same experience with my coaching clients, who I might think are very similar businesses, trying the same things and getting very different results. Okay. Should we start with my thoughts on the different kinds of trades businesses?
Totally.
And a quick overview of what I might recommend they do, right? So I'm saying there are three different types of trade businesses, right? There's your maintenance trades, and they work with consumers and businesses, right? And they do repairs and fixes, small jobs. And then there's your project trades, and I'm talking project trades to consumers, and of course, project trades to commercial customers. Consumers, not so much repeating customers. I'm talking builders and pool builders and people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking project builders to commercial customers or repeating customers, maybe even architects, where they do get repeat business.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody needs a website. Everybody needs to be found and find new customers. And what we're really talking about here with the email marketing is relationship marketing, right? And whether they should be using automated email marketing to communicate with their list of past customers and potential customers.
Well, I mean, I suppose, like fundamentally, it's not so much about using email. I mean, if you had a framework around the backbone of it is communication and contact, it's touch points. Yeah. So whether or not you want to be sending emails, like emails is by far the easiest and the cheapest way to do it. If you want to send text messages.
It's why we all love it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's also why, to be fair, that a lot of it ends up in spam, because it is easy, it is free, and there's no real barriers on it apart from these jurisdictions which are placed in different locations around the world. It's pretty much a free-for-all. So there is a lot of noise, I suppose, is the underlying truth there, and making your message cut through is what makes the difference. And so it's not really about sending out emails, it's about making valuable touch points to engage your past or present or future customers.
Okay, thanks. Let me jump in with what I've been recommending for the three different types of customers, right? And I'm calling this relationship marketing. Mm-hmm. So for your maintenance trades, I've been saying, your plumber, your electrician, those kinds of guys who get called out. The customer, I call this the customer, I forget the name. The thing the customer does, right? They get a need. They go, shit, I know I need a plumber. And they jump on their phone and they Google plumber and their suburb, and then they choose one. And if they've worked with you before, they're probably still going to do that, right? They're not going to go through their emails looking for the plumber that came last time. They'll probably hit Google, see your name again, and click you and call you again, right? They're not very loyal in that situation, I don't think. So that's where my advice has been: don't invest too heavily in your relationship marketing in that situation, if that's your primary business. And I've been saying, as you know, I know this makes you laugh, fridge magnets and stickers on the inside of the cupboard door in the kitchen is probably all you need to do. You're not sure you agree, right? So let's have a chat about that. I think it has more of a place with project trades, with your builder when you're building a house, sending messages when they start tire kicking until they're ready to choose their builder. And I think it has a place as part of a relationship marketing program for your repeating clients who you need to be in touch with all the time. But for those maintenance trades, I was a bit reluctant to encourage people to spend money on it.
All right. So I'm going to change your mind in this conversation. I 100% guarantee it. And the way I'm going to do that is not trying to swing you in the direction of email marketing is great. The way I'm going to swing the direction for you is in the space of, we live in a landscape today, like it or not, whether you're a plumber, a builder, electrician, whatever, you are if you want to engage with customers, you're going to do that through building trust and rapport. And certainly when somebody has a situation like a block drain or their power goes out in their home, their first inclination is going to be, I need someone out here really quickly. However, taking it back to trust and rapport, if somebody has a relationship with you, then why would they not want to engage you again to carry out that project? So kind of in an objection to saying, no, they're going to jump on Google and pick the first person that comes up in a Google ad search, I would say they're probably going to be far more inclined to pick up the phone and speak to somebody they've already have a relationship with and they've led into their home previously, because that's a huge barrier of entry. And so provided you've done a good job. I
disagree with that. Yeah.
Provided that you've done a good job, there shouldn't be any reason why somebody wouldn't call you back to do a similar job again. Correct?
You'd hope they would, wouldn't you? Right? And I'll agree with you. I just called a plumber recently to fix the dripping shower or something, and I called the same one we called last time. But I did jump online and go plumber, and then go, oh, there he is, that guy.
Okay.
And call him, right? Because I recognise the name. I'll say it. Fantastic plumbing here in Byron Bay. Nice guy.
So in that exact situation, if you remembered his name and you didn't have to go onto Google to be jolted of it, would you have called him still?
Yeah, fuck yeah, of course.
Exactly. So what we're talking about here is being present, is being front and center. And so however you want to address that is completely up to you guys. But the message that I'm trying to convey here is, if you're the last person in your customer's mind that they thought of when it comes to your given service or trade, then you're going to be the one they're going to call.
So you're talking about using automated marketing to stay top of mind.
Well, what we're talking about here is using technology to be front and present with these people, and you can do that through a number of ways. It can be it could be an email that you send out to these people. Now, a lot of people, when they think email marketing, they think, oh, okay, it means I'm going to get sent an email and I'm going to open it and it's going to be about promotions or discounts or deals or offers that I'm running, which doesn't have to be the case. And so we've tested this ridiculously over the years, and we have found that the best emails that get opened, or that get the highest engagement, are emails that are education based. And so if the difference there being, if I'm a plumber and I'm sending out a broadcast to my email database and it's all about, hey, come and check this out, it's our latest offer, or save $50 here, or, refer a friend and get, whatever. The bullshit filters are up, okay, for a lot of people. And so that sign kind of gets sent straight to the spam bin or unsubscribe. Now,
or even just ignored, right? I'm a bit lazy.
Completely ignored.
Email. I ignore 100 emails every day.
Yeah, see, I'm an unsubscriber, and I'm at that stage where, and like even our database, like I'm constantly filtering it and trying to keep it as engaged as we can, So a lot of people. So there's two types of people right here in this conversation, that do different things. And so unsubscribing is not necessarily a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. If people unsubscribe from your list, it's because they're not engaged with it. You don't want those people in your list.
We don't need them anyway, right? Yeah.
Right. So that's fine. But what we find is a great way to reduce your unsubscribe rate, which means that people are actually enjoying the content that you're being sent because they're opening it. They're not unsubscribing and they're engaging with it. They're clicking on links or they're replying to the email, is through some sort of education according to something they're interested in. So what do they need?
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you, right? And that's what both you and I do, isn't it? Right? We both spend a lot of energy trying to say interesting things,
right,
to the people who read our stuff.
So there's certainly nothing wrong with fridge magnets and letterbox shops. And don't get me wrong, although we work in the digital space, as I said before, there's no right or wrong when it comes to marketing. If we're running ads in papers works for you, run ads in papers. Like, one of my biggest clients in Australia, one of the biggest plumbing, electrical, HVAC companies in Australia, two of them actually, they both spend a ridiculous amount of money on the old lumpy mail, your letterbox shops, your newspaper ads, like all these things where like a modern marketer would go, oh, you're wasting your money, spend it on Google ads. But then they know, like, they're spending $200,000 a month on Google ads spend alone. Like, they're not stupid. You're not pulling the wool over their eyes, right? So don't for a second think that, it's all about choosing one or the other. And so when I say, like, marketing is effectively like a sequence of tests, and that's how you should look at it as well. Like, what's going to work better? What's going to perform better? What type of email do I send out to this customer that gets a better open rate, a better engagement rate? And how do I double down on that? What type
can we talk about that? Because this is partly where I've struggled, right? I'm saying to my guys, you could invest in digital marketing, email marketing. I'm thinking email marketing particularly for the moment, right? I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking it's a lot of effort for you. You've got a lot of shit to do. You to make up something interesting for people to read. I'm not sure your customers are that interested in plumbing, right? The reason they hire you is because they don't want to talk about fucking plumbing. They want you to do it.
Right.
So help me understand that, because that's a bridge I've struggled a gap I've struggled to bridge.
Okay, well, here's a paradigm for you, right? So let's say you, for the last 3 years, have had a plumber come out to your home every 3 months to clear a block drain, right? Every time they come out, it costs you $400 to clear that block drain. So it gets expensive. Now, all of a sudden, you get an email from that client in the mail, and it's talking about a project they just completed, which is a technology which enables them to repair blocked drains from the inside without having to excavate, so they never have to come out and do a blocked drain at your home again. Now, would that interest you?
Yeah, maybe.
Right. So when we're talking about sending out the right message to the right people, you can really customize content according to what their interests are, which, by the way, the technology will enable you to do. So it does that through things like tagging and segmentation. I'm not going to get too technical on that sort of stuff because it's
No, don't get technical. You just confuse me.
It's kind of geeky. But
yeah,
the point is, okay, in my CRM, and we may as well lose the term email marketing because today it's more talk. The talk is more about automation because it involves things like SMS. It involves things like chatbots on your website. So all this stuff, we call it automation, right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
You can incorporate a whole bunch of different tools into an automation package, which when you say, oh, it seems like a lot of work to create this content, it doesn't. You create it once and then the automation tool does the heavy lifting for you. So that might
be... you can help create it too, right?
Yeah, we do all this for all of our clients. So in that situation, John is a client of ours. We've been clearing these block drains for the last 3 years. As an honest plumber, I feel like I don't want to be taking the piss out of John anymore. He's already put 2 of my kids through college. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show him a way that we can actually repair this drain, which runs underneath his house. So we can't dig it up. And it's going to cost him X. And he will never have to have us come back to clear these block drains every 3 months ever again. So automatically...
I might see that title on my email, that subject line, and go, oh, that's intriguing.
Right.
And I might read that. You're right. If you said, plumbing, toilets, dripping taps, I'm not very interested. But if you said something like that, here's something you could do that, that you should invest in to maintain your house, I might be a bit more intrigued.
But then again, you've got to think outside of the box when it comes to these sort of things, because you say, oh, plumbing, toilets, dripping taps, I may not be interested. But then if I sent you a similar piece of content and I said, here's a client of ours, we've been working with them for the last 5 years. They had these taps in their house, and every 6 months we've had to go back and change these washers. And every time we come out, it costs them $400 to do it. And now there's these amazing new taps that we've just become a reseller for, and we can come out and we can install these taps, and we can guarantee that we won't have to come back for 2 years.
Yeah, maybe.
So now, see, and so what we're talking about here, as much as it's like automation, we're talking about engagement. We're talking about content. And like it or not, the guy that is good at getting their content to people that are interested in it is going to be the guy that's going to get the job. And we see this over and over again. We see it from, obviously, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the longer sales cycle, trades, which are your builders and project-paced.
We're focusing on those guys right now.
But then even from a residential maintenance point of view, there's still value you can be adding, which will appeal to your customers, both past, present, and future. That is basically like low-hanging fruit for you. And so don't think for the mistake that a lot of people make, and this is relevant to all businesses, is that people come to them for information and we don't give it to them. They're coming to you for advice. They're coming to you for information. I want to get a price on a hot water heater. Bang, they're interested in hot water heaters. So sure, they may shop around, but you still know they're interested in hot water heaters. Now, are they ready to make a decision right there and then? Who knows? Maybe they are. Maybe the hot water heater's blown up and they're going to take the first person they see. Maybe they're not. You don't know that. But if there's content that's there, which you can deploy through applying a tag to their name in your CRM that talks about different types of hot water heaters, then one thing's for sure, you're going to be in a considerably better situation if that sales cycle is a little bit longer for them than someone who is not investing in them.
All right, you're persuading me. I'm a bit more persuaded. But we knew we were going to head this way, didn't we? But, I guess you've persuaded me that we can send you've fixed that problem, right? That the content about plumbing or electrical stuff is boring and nobody gives a shit and wants to read it. Right? I'm persuaded now that someone like you, with your experience in those kinds of things, can help some of my customers come up with good content, or maybe together we can even. And write content for emails and texts and break through that barrier of I'm not really interested in what the plumber has to say.
And I'll touch as well on something that you said before, which is completely relevant, and everyone out there thinks this. All my customers think the same thing, and this is a work in progress. All of this stuff is a work in progress, by the way, guys. Like it's always a journey. Like, a couple of years ago, bots came on the scene. Oh wow, how do we implement? There's always something. So,
Yeah.
but what you said was something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, but I haven't got the time to do this, create this content. I'm not really sure. I should just be running Google Ads and bringing you work in or whatever. Now, the bottom line is, if you want to get these results, and what we actually know is, like, through our data and the clients that we've worked with, is that through trying to re-engage our customers, we're 8 times more likely to get that sale than if we were to bring in a cold lead through a Google ad. So what I mean by that is, if you've got like a Google ad campaign out there, and say your cost per click is $50 a click or whatever, which by the way is not uncommon.
It's where it is, yeah.
For a lot of industries and verticals, then there's a number of different areas which that affect that ecosystem. First of all, ad spend. So people see the ad, they click on the ad. Do they want to engage with this person? Maybe not. Click back, go to the next ad, click on them. So there's an ecosystem there. How do you convert, right? So what's going to make that person actually convert? That's important. Now, like a really good website on a Google ad campaign might convert at like 20 or 30%, which means that you effectively need 5
$50 clicks to get an inquiry.
To get one job. Okay. But what we also know is that, if you're in that situation, if it's a repeat customer, you're 8 times more likely to get that client back if you just front and center. Like, if they don't have to go to Google and click on that link, they won't, because they know that, I'm just going to call Matt. Right.
You're talking about customer lifetime value, right? Which is a conversation we had. How to keep them for longer and make them spend more, right? Let's bring that concept in. We knew we were going to.
Well, when you're talking about like re-engaging customers, that's certainly lifetime value. Yeah, absolutely. And you'll find as well, different businesses will have different lifetime values on different services and different options and different offers and all this kind of stuff, right? So being in control of that data is extremely important, which technology will also help you do. Right. So it's not so much email marketing technology. It's about having control over your data and knowing what's working for what customers, having them segmented, sending out relevant content if you want to, that is, basically targeted towards that person. But you can't do any of that. You can't know your lifetime value of a customer if you haven't got that data saved somewhere. Like, you're not going to remember it.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, you don't remember it. You have to guess or go back to your data.
Right. And so in terms of saving, I don't have time for this. Like, it's a huge time saver to have technology to manage that for you, because you're never going to remember it. You're not going to go back to your spreadsheets. Xero and MYOB are not CRMs. Like, and this is a big thing that people, all my customer information's in Xero. I'm like, well, that's great, but let's get it out of there real quick, because Xero is a bookkeeping software,
Yeah.
So it's really important, I think, like the fundamental message here is just be in a situation where, regardless of whether or not you're convinced about, I want to send out communications and I want to create content and all this stuff, be in a situation where you're in control of the asset. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but like,
well, we can go there now. I mean, we're floating about a bit. You're persuading me. I came here to be persuaded, right?
Right.
But you're persuading me that you can write content as a tradie that will get through, that people will care about and want to read, right? I think you persuaded me that, and I came not, thinking it was boring shit, really.
So the serendipity, right? There's lots of amazing things that you can use well-created content for. Obviously, you can send it out in a newsletter, and people, if they're interested in that, they'll engage with it. That's a no-brainer. But then you've got other serendipities like, okay, well, I've created this content for the purpose of a newsletter. However, it lives on my website and it's been optimized for the search engines. So now we're creating content that lives on a website, which has search engine advantage. Okay. So and now I've also got a page on my website, which I can send out to my social media channels, and then I can get them from Facebook back
onto
to
my
my
website
website.
where they can inquire or engage with us.
So then I can control the journey more.
Mm.
And then there's technology plugged into my website, which enables me to collect data on that person. It enables me to retarget ads to them if I want, which I know you encourage all the
Yeah, I
Google
do.
ads
Yeah,
and that kind of
I
stuff.
do. Look,
So
I've got a couple of things going on, right? I'm persuaded, and I can hear a lot of my clients going, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of work, though." Do you know? Sounds like a lot of work, John. I've got plenty to do already. I've got all this shit you're telling me you want me to do, all this plan we've written. This sounds time-consuming, difficult, complicated, and maybe too much for my billion-dollar business.
okay, well, let's break it down. Let's
Yeah.
go. Okay, so let's talk about it being a lot of work. Let's talk about what's involved, right?
Yeah.
First of all, setting up the program doesn't take a lot of work. In fact, if we do it for you, we automatically click and deploy the account. All you need to do is fill your details in, and it all gets deployed for you automatically. It's easy. So that doesn't take any time.
Okay.
Customizing a sequence, right? Yes, that takes time. So when we deploy these accounts into our clients' businesses, it comes with automations in there, and they can either go through a training process which talks them through how to customize it themselves, so they haven't got to pay us to do it, or they can pay us to do it. So that doesn't it can take time, or it doesn't take time depending on your budget.
Well, if they're my clients, if it's my clients listening to this, you'll be paying Matt to do it. That would be my advice.
Okay.
We shouldn't be doing that shit ourselves. It's not our skills.
It depends, though. When you've got somebody in the office that their job is marketing, they like to do it. So, but being in a situation where you don't, and this is like,
and you'll do both, right? You'll help somebody do it, and you'll take it on and do it, right? You'll do it.
Right. Yeah, but like that aside, fundamentally, I think it's really important to communicate to guys that like being in control of your assets means you're not dependent on anyone in particular at any stage. And what I mean by that is every week we get clients come to us to get websites worked on or websites rebuilt, and they're tied into some proprietary program by some designer who every time they want to change a word or a letter or add an image, they've got to pay them $500 to do it. And it's bullshit. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. Control your own asset. Yeah.
So being in control of it, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having people help you work on these things, but at the end of the day, it should be your asset. Okay.
I can't disagree with you, Matt.
So
I agree.
When we're talking about your website, fine, people can work on it, and we build websites for hundreds and hundreds of companies. We build them, but it's theirs. We manage it for them, sure, but it's still theirs. If they want to take it, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it, right?
Yeah.
So the service is more there as a convenience. And when it comes to your database and your CRM, absolutely, that should be yours. Like you should be in control of it. There's no point in leasing this information off a company that's got the proprietary rights to it, because if you want to leave, they'll go, okay, see ya, we've got all your data, ciao. Like that's the last thing you want. So you want
it's nice for them, right? Because it's a barrier to you leaving.
Well, it's a scam.
But it's not very honest of them, no.
Yeah, it's a complete scam. I mean, you see it all the time. You see it with, companies registering domains for other companies. Oh, they've registered under our name, and if you want it, too bad. And you're like, it's just dishonest,
Yeah, agreed.
You've got to go through a whole legal battle and trying to get it back through, business name registration, so on and so forth. It's a disaster, but we see it all the time. Yeah. So in terms of getting back to what we were talking about in terms of the time side of things, where it takes time, right? And this is where we can't help you. You've gone and completed a solar hot water installation at a property in the city, and we want to talk about that on the website. We need you to take the images. You have to take photos. We need help with how the project went. And we've got frameworks around helping us get that information so that we can turn it into content. But we still need you guys, clients, to...
You've got to go out there and do something.
Yeah. And so people think, okay, well, there you go. That's it. See, it takes me to do something and I haven't got time to do it. But guys, this is the situation. Regardless of whether or not you want to do this, it has to get done at some point. Like if you want the result, the work has to be done. So there's frameworks that can help very much in reducing your effort into doing it. However, fundamentally, it needs to become part of your process at some point. And that's the difference, where people go, okay, I'm going to put this on the list of other things that I need to do. That's where it never gets done. However,
when it stays there down at the bottom with John going, have you done that thing yet when we meet?
relegate
never
it
gets
every
done.
week.
It's not helpful.
Relegate it.
Yeah.
Not important. Other things to do. However, when it becomes part of the process, it gets done. So what I mean by that is we're massive on helping businesses get systemized and implement processes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Fundamentally, because we want to try and help them remove them from areas of their business where their time's not best spent. So to be honest, a lot of our clients, a lot of our trade customers, that's the administration office side of things. They'd rather be out on the job managing their guys, quoting, doing all that kind of stuff. Anyway, whatever.
We speak on the same sheet there, I think.
Right. So when we're talking about like making it part of the process, what I'm talking about here is, okay, currently the way that I go out a job and I do my on-site inspection, I go do this, and this, and now I have to take photos. And I have to tick the box, or the foreman has to do it, or whatever it is, whatever that checklist involves.
It's part of the process. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like, if you're not doing that anyway, you're not taking photos, you're opening yourself up for an impending disaster down the track at some point, because inevitably you're going to get a client turn around and say, oh, this wasn't like that. You've scratched that wasn't there. You've done this, you've broken that. So you should be out there capturing this information anyway through imagery, because it's just sadly the world we live in.
Yes.
So, I mean, and also like having like these platforms available, you know, like your Instagrams or your Facebooks or your Pinterest or whatever, like they're there to help you showcase your expertise. So showcase your freaking expertise, you know, like start capturing data, get it on the asset which you control is your website, and then you can leverage that. So if someone calls you and they go, hey, John, have you ever done a bathroom renovation in Ballina? You can say, well, no, not in Ballina, but here at Brunswick Heads, I've done a couple. Here's a couple of links to web pages. Have a look through these, see if you like the look of them. You can't make that stuff up. You can make up a testimonial. Here's a testimonial on my website from John with a stock image of some devastatingly handsome man saying, oh, Matt's Plumbing did an amazing job at my home. I recommend them to anyone. Like, that's bullshit. We all know it, right? But you can't make up a well-written case study.
No, I agree. All right. And you can help with all that, right? Because I get torn here. I listened to you then and I said, most of the people I work with could go and do that, right? Would find that not too difficult to go to jobs, talk to the customer. You know, I reckon most of my people could do that. Most of them would also look at the tech and go, oh, that's a lot of work and effort, and I'd rather do these other things, right? So getting you guys in there to do it, I think would be helpful.
Well,
for them.
apart from, like, realistically, aside from wanting to see data within the system, things like how many people have I got subscribed to my list? How good is my open rate? My email campaigns going? Like, what sort of engagement are we getting? Who's clicking on it? Well, apart from that, the business owner really doesn't need to go in there unless they want.
Not really.
Do you know what I mean?
Not really. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, like,
no, I'm with you. They should be getting a report, you know.
But don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to say there's no work involved in it, because there is work involved in it. But then, as I said, like, the landscape of business is changing, and we have responsibilities today to get a certain result that weren't around 10, 15 years ago. So if you're, the guy out there swinging hammers the way you did 15 years ago, you'll significantly know that business
will stay there.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, we're talking about people who want to grow, right? Who want to get bigger and are prepared to invest in getting bigger. They're my clients, right? They want to go from where they are now to 2 and 3 and 4 times as big.
Well, maybe, but maybe not. I mean, I look at a lot of our clients today, they don't want to get bigger. They want to stay where they are, and they want to do that through not having to spend money on Google marketing. They want to do that through, keeping their core customers, which, they know are good customers, they're qualified, they never give them grief. Like, very often you find when you're in that churn and burn mentality, you're filtering through so much garbage from a customer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this. Let's spend a bit of time on this, because this is back to that customer lifetime value discussion and keeping the ones you've got and being able to sell them something else again much more readily, right? And I think it's very easy to get caught in that churn and burn, advertise on Google AdWords. Your $50 a click's an awful lot. You've probably still got to do it, but if you can get business without having to pay the $50, if you can have a higher lifetime value from your customer without having to spend the $50 to acquire them again, then that's got to be valuable, hasn't it?
So Yes, basically. And
Yeah, basically, right. And it's worth an investment in a database and some form of automated communicating.
well, I mean, look, it again, if you've got the data, you can use it. If you haven't got the data, you can't use it. If you've got the content, you can use it. If you haven't got the content, you can't use it. So
Yeah.
like fundamentally, and this is like, when people come to us and they say, oh, we want a website, we want this and that, blah blah blah. Like it's very often the case where at that point in the conversation with that customer, they're not ready to hear about email marketing, nurture campaigns, re-engagement, all this kind of stuff. But like I know
Yeah,
full
it can be
well that
overwhelming. It overwhelms me sometimes.
but knowing full well that in 12 or 18 months time they may very well be ready to have that conversation.
Yeah,
If
okay.
throughout that period they've been collecting data, then come the time they're ready to go, right, let's use it, we can, because we have it. But if you haven't got it, you're starting from scratch when you're ready.
Okay. Okay. So
So
putting the system in place in the first place and collecting the data from the leads is like the first step. That's one step. You can do that separately before you have to worry about writing content and investing in the next bit.
absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
you may never ever have to write content. Like you may just want to collate that information from a database point of view because you know it's a smart idea to have an app to have your customer records collated. If someone's going to come and buy your business, that's what they're buying. They're buying your customer records and they're buying the
Yeah.
processes that run the business without you. That's
But
typically
that
what.
was the next thing we were going to talk about, right? Building an asset into your business.
Well, I mean, this whole thing is about building an asset. It's what it is. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's different types of assets. You can call it goodwill, or you can call it like a physical, tangible asset at the end of the day, which is the database. But having all of that
Well, to be
information.
honest, it's all about profit that the buyer can make, and with some certainty if they buy your business, right? That's really what we're talking about here.
It's
It's the
it,
level of confidence the buyer has that they buy your business and make money.
very often it's about how can I buy this organization, plug it into mine, and compound the results. So it's not always a case of I want to buy this business and duplicate its profit straight away. It doesn't always, business doesn't necessarily work like that from my
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
But when they've got a machine that's working over here and they can acquire a company and bolt that in, which then creates a number of different opportunities through cross-selling services, referrals, all this kind of stuff, then it becomes quite powerful. And, you're not then talking about, it's not so linear then, like then it kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
turns into like a compounding conversation or potentially compounding conversation. So without going too technical on that, like fundamentally having an asset there which has all of your customer information front and present. And don't get me wrong as well, a lot of you guys may be out there using, like job management and project management tools, ServiceMate, Traderfires, Arrow Flows, so on and so forth. Fantastic. Again, like all the information there, it's collated, customer records are there, your job history is there, so on and so forth. Like if you're not using that sort of stuff, guys, you need to
Should be.
you
Yeah,
need to evolve,
yeah, yeah.
So, and very often as well, those tools are enough for a business. Like if people are like, well, I'm not interested in sending out email automations and all that kind of stuff, and I don't need to be sending that stuff out. Fine, don't, like whatever. Go and get yourself a really good job management tool, set it up, use it, get all your data into it, and it again, it's a collated resource of of customer information. So,
But there's a difference between that and a CRM and marketing
look,
information for your customers, right?
CRM is a term that has
Yeah,
long
let's say what
since
it
lost
stands
its
for.
relevance. I mean, so so it stands for customer relationship management. But to be honest with you, like, the term CRM is so broad today. I mean, I could look at my mobile phone right here and go, well, it's a CRM because it contains customer records.
Yeah.
You could look at your email inbox and go, oh, well, all my customer records are in there. I could look at my Xero and go, well, technically it's a CRM because customer records in there. So it's a very broad term. But
Yeah.
like from a business point of view, fundamentally, look, it's kind of common sense, right? If just put yourself in the situation of, okay, I want to buy a business. What is it that you're going to buy? Like, I want an asset all in one place. I don't want to have to go through his phone. I don't want to have to go through his laptop. I don't want to go through his iPad. Like, I just want everything there, So where does that exist? Is it in a job management program? Is it in a project management software? Or is it in like an email marketing database? Are they sending out communications? Are they getting engagement? Do they have, are their customers interested in them coming back out to the job? Like that's a massive, if you've got a database of 5,000 people and you go and reservice 1,000 of those people every year, that's huge, because it means that
okay, so it's having statistics on that type of information, right? How many of them come back and spend more money every year? While we're talking about an asset in your business for a buyer to consider, having that kind of information is what's going to make them pay more money, isn't it?
Yes.
That there is repeating business. There's a number you can put on repeating business. It's one thing to say there are 5,000 customers in Zero, and it's quite another to say there are 5,000 customers and 1,000 of them every year spend another $250.
Exactly.
On whatever, and another 2,000 of them spend $1,000 on these things.
Exactly. Right.
It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's how as well, right? And here's how they do that.
So these
that's
are
another
things,
important factor.
And so these are things that you should be considering when you're talking about your asset. I mean, and look, I'm sure you discussed this in your program, but like at the end of the day, sitting down and really brainstorming like the end goal, like what is this? If I ever wanted to sell this, and I have this conversation daily, and anyone that listens to the podcast knows, we've said it a million times. People, I am my business, and without me, there is no business, and I'll never be able to sell this business because without me, it's nothing. And my response is always, well, yeah, correct. You're 100% right.
It's true for many of us, but it's not where we want to be, is it?
Unless you pull your head out of the sand and do something different, that is always going to be the result, because that's the worst case scenario for a business owner. Well, I am me, and without the business, there's nothing else. Well, okay, so let's mitigate that problem. How can we move in a direction which makes you redundant in the business? So, implementing processes and systems and stuff like this is just effectively another system. Like it's a system that helps you communicate and re-engage with your customers. So it means someone hasn't got to be sitting there on the phone, a telemarketer, pick up the phone, going, hey, yeah, it's Matt from Bob's Plumbing. How about we come out and service that hot water heater we put in 2 years ago?
It's not going to happen, and it's not going to be interesting. Yeah,
exactly.
All right, so look, I'm coming round. Right, I like the idea of increasing the lifetime value of your customer and getting them spending more and coming back and re-engaging, right? And I think I can see that it's cheaper to do that than going out and finding them again if they just go out to market. And I can see that you can influence it, and that you can make interesting enough, marketing communications that you can, be a bit more visible in someone's email or in someone's text messages by saying interesting shit, right? I'm seeing that. I'm also hearing you telling me that, you can build an asset into your business, and by having this information and having more kind of granular and useful information for a buyer, you can increase the value of your business, increase that goodwill when you sell it. I think the third thing I heard you say was, it's not as hard as you might think, right? And you can help.
It's not so much, it's not hard. It's just different. Like if you want to get in there and you want to, if you don't know what you don't know, you can't get in there and just straight away know how to run a program which you've never looked at, and you may never want to. But the point is, if you do want to get in there and use it, then at some point you're going to have to learn something. Now, I'm preaching to the choir here because we're talking, and obviously this goes out to my audience, and those guys are there, they want to learn, right? So we're not talking about you guys, but if you've got friends and colleagues and things like that are out there and they're like, oh, well, I'd never do that because I have to learn something, then go stick your head back in the sand. And
yeah, they're not our audience. Our audience wants to learn this stuff in particular. I was going to move us on to the next topic we might discuss, which was nurturing relationships. So for our jobbing or maintenance trades, you don't need to do a lot of nurturing, right? They're mostly buying. The buying cycle is normally reasonably short. But if you're a builder, or you work with an architect, or you work with a larger business who buys, has repeat work to do, you need to nurture somebody through a longer buying cycle because it's a bigger project, or you need to nurture somebody through, an ongoing buying relationship. So let's talk about that as well.
Well, I think first and foremost, we should define nurturing, okay? Because what we've just been speaking about for the last hour has effectively been nurturing. So, however, perceptions on what nurturing is may differ, and I feel like maybe you've got a different perception on nurturing depending on different businesses.
In that previous conversation, I was thinking mostly about maintenance type trades, doing smaller jobs with a shorter sales cycle. So I was thinking of nurturing in a sense to get them to buy again next time they have a need for a similar product. But I know I'm very aware that there's a type of nurturing where, you know, somebody wants to buy a house or build a house or build an extension or build a pool, and they're going to take 3, 6, 9 months to decide, and you can nurture that relationship during that period as well. I know the technology lends itself to that very well.
Right. So there's nurturing is applicable to basically every business. We've already just spoken about the residential style of business and how engaging with them would work, and that effectively is a way that you can nurture that type of customer.
Yeah.
When we're talking about nurturing clients for a product that has a longer sales cycle, and so when you're talking about, let's use builders as an example, like you just did then.
Yeah.
You know, from the time that I come to you, John, and say, look, I'm really interested in getting you know, putting a renovation on my home. We've got a kid on the way, another kid on the way. We've run out of space, blah, blah, blah. Like from the time that I come to you and with that question or that initial interaction and the time that I'm actually ready to pull the trigger, like
That's
you
a long
said,
time,
it
probably,
could be,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
6 months, 2 years, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when we're trying to like that, you could do two things there. Like you could say to me, okay, cool. Well, yeah, no, we can do that. No worries. Do you want a proposal? You want a quote? You want a tender or whatever?
Well, that's usually what they ask for, isn't it? Right? They usually come and say, I'm thinking about building an extension. Can you give me a quote?
Yeah.
Which is usually not very helpful for them. If you go and do that, you're probably wasting a lot of time and not giving them what they need anyway.
So without going too much down a rabbit hole, which is probably a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
Qualifying your customers is really, really important. And I don't mean like qualifying them in the sense that like from a customer avatar perspective. What I'm talking about here is qualifying your customers so you're having conversations with them that are relevant to the stage in the sales cycle that they're at. And so for lots of our builders, for all of our builders, really, we help them do this through forms on their website, which help them understand where their customer is in terms of, have you got drawings done? Have you spoken to an architect? Have you have you submitted for a development application? Like, do you have all of these things in order that we need you to have before we even talk about building your house, building your job. So the advantage of like qualifying your customer in that situation means that you can then hold their hand through whatever stage they need to be going through. And that might not even involve you. That might be, okay, I need you to speak to our architects because they need to get some drawings. I need you to, here's the link to the local council. You've got to go submit a development application. Here's a link to an engineer. You've got to
That's right. Look, I think the trick there is to stay engaged with them and be useful,
right,
without spending all your time.
So this is nurturing, like you're nurturing them through this process, right?
Look, I wanted to go further than that and even further back in their buying cycle, right? Because a lot of people, before they speak to a builder or a tradesperson, they go tire kicking first, right? They float around on the internet looking at people's websites and looking at architects and draftsmen, and or they go around to kitchenware showrooms and look at drawers and cupboards and all that kind of shit.
And so what are they typically looking for?
Information, guidance, that shit, right? Yeah.
Because we are not builders, we are in the information game, right? We are there to create content. Now, they're looking for content relevant to an interest, right? So going back to what we said before, you've got this amazing content that lives on your website, which has been optimized for the search engines. So somebody's typed in home renovation in Brunswick Heads and bang, all of a sudden, they're tire kicking, they're looking for information, but your website's popped up because you've got content that's created on there.
Yeah, right. Or they've typed builder Brunswick Heads. They've seen you. They're having a look on yours. They're looking at everybody's, right? They're going to look at 5, 6, 10 builders, and then go, oh, they're all arseholes. I don't know if I like any of these, babe. Right? They're in that kind of process, aren't they? And, maybe we should ask our friends if they know a good builder. Maybe we should ask Jimmy. He's an architect, see what builders he recommends. They do all those things, right?
And actually, interestingly, on that, and that is a very common conversation for builders, especially where we got all of our work through referrals. They all come through clients that we've done word of mouth, right? But what we now know statistically, and it's funny, I did a podcast on this with a guy in the US on Tuesday, and he said the same thing. Now, regardless of whether or not that lead has come from somebody that you know, friend, colleague, family member, business associate, whatever, the person that they've given that referral to is now statistically 70% more likely to go and do their own research on that person than to call the number on the card you've given them.
Yeah,
and if
they're going to your website, right?
100%. And like, I reckon that figure's even jaded. It's also probably, I've said it a million times before, but you know, important to note to qualify that 70% of statistics are made up. But in this instance, it's completely true. And if you think about it, you would be in that boat. Like if you saw a guy drive past, home renovation expert. Damn, I really want to speak to a home renovation expert. What was his name again? Oh, it's so-and-so. Let me get on my little mobile internet machine right here and let me just Google him up. All right. So
first thing you do.
That's exactly right. So when we're talking about word of mouth, don't fall into the trap of saying, oh, I get all of my work through word of mouth. I don't need to market. Word of mouth is marketing, right? But what you need to consider is the ecosystem and the journey they're going on. Yes, you've got signage on your car, but that signage is going to lead to your website.
And your Facebook page, perhaps your Instagram.
Right.
You know, right? If you live in a community, it's all those things and your network of people who know you, right?
And you better hope that your Instagram and your Facebook leads people to your website, because otherwise you're just building Mark Zuckerberg's dream. Yeah. You know, like we want you to be in control, build your own asset. Zuck's doing okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's an interesting comment, right? What did you call it? Ecosystem, your marketing ecosystem. I used to call it the mesh, right? It's all connected. Nobody's coming to you having seen your ad or your sign or your vehicle or been recommended without going everywhere else and having a look first, really, right?
So I've presented on this from stage all over the world, like we call it the digital ecosystem, but what it really entails is...
I'm stealing that, Matt, by the way.
It's copyrighted, but you go for it. How can you take this fridge magnet? How does this fridge magnet sitting on a hot water heater, whatever, how does that tie to my website? How can I make it tie to my website? Right? So sure, I've got a fridge magnet here. That's fantastic. But at the end of the day, fridge magnet's freaking useless because I want people to take action from that. They're either going to call a number on it, which may be a tracking number or it may not be, but they may also go to the website, and I want to be able to get them to the website because once they're there, I can control the journey. People don't book in from a fridge magnet. They book in through taking action, picking up the phone or visiting a website. That's just the way it works. So the ecosystem's applicable everywhere there. You're talking about, you know, your letterbox drops, your newspaper ads, like all these things, they all affect each other.
I want to take us back to nurturing quickly.
Yeah, sorry. I told you.
It's all right.
Rabbit hole.
It's all right.
There we go. Rabbit hole.
Yeah. But look, we're still on nurturing, right? We've talked about nurturing through a sales or a tire kicking process, right? So tire kick, we all hate tire kickers, but the reality is kicking tires is an important part of somebody's buying process. And we need to let them kick their tires, right? And when they've gone looking around at a few websites and they're kicking tires and they're wondering how much building costs and they ring you up and ask you for a quote or they don't, that's a good time to be engaging with them, right? And one thing I like to advocate is, a useful download, a lead magnet, it's called in the industry, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I like to call it a bait piece because I'm called small fish and bait sounds a bit like fishing. So I think that's funny, right? So you should have a bait piece that they download, right? 10 mistakes to avoid when you're choosing a builder. Something, right?
I think it's important initially to, like, when we talk about tire kickers, I think it's got a negative connotation. If I said to you, I'm going to send you two leads, John. One guy's just made a decision that he wants to renovate his home.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you this other guy who's decided with his wife 3 or 4 months ago they want to renovate their home, and they've been to 50 websites and they've downloaded 50 resources from different websites. Like, are you going to want to talk to someone that's doing research, or are you going to talk to somebody that's like fresh off the cab?
No, I don't know. I'm torn now.
Anyway,
I'll tell you why. Because all my clients who come to me say things like, "I've been watching your videos for a while." So they've done their research and they've come. Correct. Most of them have done research and then go, "No, I will talk to John actually."
So this ties back into what I was saying. If you've got content, you can use it. If there's stuff there that call it a lead magnet if you want, but I mean, even if it's like a project on your website, if they've seen this and they're like, wow, this is awesome, this is exactly what we want, like you can't make that stuff up. It's different to seeing an ad, or it's different to somebody. And if that person rings you and they haven't seen it, are you going to send them that content? Hey, have you done any home renovations? Nah, yeah, we've done loads. Have you got any proof? Nah.
Give us your email. I'll send you some stuff. Hold on.
No, but I'm good, I swear. Or,
yeah,
bang, here's 10 pages from our website, which is exactly what you're talking about. So people are going to research exactly right. And why shouldn't they research? They're going to be, it's the single biggest investment they're probably ever going to make, aside from buying the home, is putting an extension on it.
Well, they're probably a lot more serious, right, than the person who's not done anything yet. He still hasn't done his research yet, right? He's probably still going to do research. You're not going to get a job from him anytime soon.
So when people come to me and they say, I've spoken to 5 other companies about building a website, about SEO, I want to speak to you as well, that's music to my ears, because I know that I know that I can do better with our proposal. I know that I can relate it better because we do deal specifically with their business and trades. And I know that they're researching, so they understand roughly what their budget needs to be. And they're going to have a pretty good idea. And being that we're, 5th person they've spoken to, they're probably at a stage where they're like, I just want to get shit done now. Like,
or those 4 are okay, but not that good.
Right.
Or something like that, right?
And then it puts you in a position where you can ask questions as well. You can say, oh, okay, well, who have you spoken to? What have you liked about it? You've got a lot more, you're in a far better position to ask questions in that situation. So, I mean, for us, that's part of our qualification process anyway. It's, did you know that we run Australia's biggest business podcast for tradies? Do you know this? Have you seen our project? Have you seen this stuff? Because once they see that, then it improves conversion, right? So that tying back again to that ecosystem, how does that initial phone call, how can you positively affect that through other areas?
Yeah. Look, and also when they down that bait piece, now you've got their email address and their number. You can send them an email every week,
right,
telling them how nice you are, right? Or addressing, those issues, the fears that that people who are building a house are going to have about engaging with a builder. And you can say, this is the thing, look how lovely we are. This is the thing, this is our process. This is how our process works. You can maintain contact. You can nurture that relationship without having to ring them every week and go, hey, how you going? It's John here.
I think I've just won the arm wrestle, haven't I?
I think you might have, yeah. I'm fairly persuaded.
So anyway, but what you say is right. And when we're talking about, like, back at the beginning of the conversation, you were like, well, email marketing, and it was very much focused on, sending out promotions and shit that no one's really interested in. And now we're all thinking, okay, well, it's not so much about that. It's about being able to be in a position where we can educate and nurture, and we can add value to people to help them through the buying process so that we stand out.
Yeah. Whether you're a builder or a maintenance trade, it still works, right? You can be anything. Yeah. So I've often said, it works for me. I'm a business coach. I'm in the information industry. People, I want to tell people my stuff so they can get to know the feel of it. And I've always gone plumbers, electricians, not so much, but I've come around. I think plumbers and electricians also, there's stuff to say.
One thing that we all do this as business owners, but it's very, very, probably because I work in the trades and so do you, but one thing that's extremely apparent with trade businesses is, and we get this objection a lot, no one's interested in what I do. Guys, I need to communicate to you, what you do is incredibly interesting to people. Like, you're talking to a guy who sits in an office and works on spreadsheets, and you're out there building homes. Like, don't for a second think that what you do is not a content marketer's dream. Like, you just need to change your perception on things. So, okay, well, all I do is block drains. Well, no, that's not the point. Like, you don't do block drains. You prevent families from having their sewer overflow within their house. You keep families from becoming sick, through the exposure to raw sewage and all these kind of things. Like, there's many ways you can spin it. So it's important that when you're thinking about these things, like, don't have the blinkers on because, all I do is build houses. Are you freaking kidding? Find me one thing on the planet cooler than building houses, which people spend their entire lives in. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, all right. I think I like this idea that the content is easier to produce than we might imagine.
Do you know how
You
easy
know?
content is to produce? Like,
I
these
find it
thing-
relatively easy to
these
produce.
things right
personally.
here.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing. Like people go, "Oh, I'm afraid of the camera. Or I'm afraid." Like, shut up. I don't care. You know what? If you're afraid, I don't want to hear it. Just if you're like, oh, I'm afraid of being in front, shut up. Okay, just shut up. Right. So this is the thing. You are, or hopefully you are, you're an expert at what you do. Now, if I came up to you on the street and I said, "Hey, could you just run me through the history of the Australian Parliament, just with all of the prime ministers that have ever existed and what they stood for." Go. Oh, hang on. Just let me get the camera out. Film. You'd be like, what? But then if I came to you and I said, "What do you do?" And you said, "Well, you know, I'm a glazier. I work with frameless shower screens." Okay, cool. Tell me about that. Sure. Well, you know, what we do is we basically help customers with, you know, removing all the old daggy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, you could
And all
probably
of a
be quite
sudden,
enthusiastic, right?
right?
Yeah.
Because you're an expert at that. Like, what is the
Yeah.
problem in talking about what you know about? So if you're at the pub with your
Not
mates,
only
you'll
that,
talk
right?
about it.
Most of our customers are enthusiastic about what they do, right? They
Right.
like their job, really. I don't know anybody, none of my clients don't like it. They all like their jobs. They all like the trade they do and the technologies they use and the things they produce. So I'm with you there.
So it's not so much about, like, it's got nothing to do with whether or not you like being on a camera. Like, no one gives a shit if you like being on a camera. Like, nobody likes being on the camera, except maybe John.
I used to hate it.
The thing is, this is the thing, right? Like, you progressively get better with it. Like, I just had a celebrity couple on the show last week, and they're on The Block. If you heard of The Block, it's like for those of you guys that are overseas, it's a huge home building show. And they said the same thing. They said, when we first started, it was terrifying. And Dan said, you know, when I was like, I couldn't stand the sound of my voice. Now, it took me a year to get used to the sound of my voice. I still hate it. Like, but that's not the point, right? You get better at it over time, and then you start. It's a skill. You learn to develop skills. You didn't start plumbing and all of a sudden, you know, be able to throw up stack work. You've learned it. So, you know, it's not hard for you to go to a job on a hot water installation that you've just done, pull the phone out and talk about it. You haven't even got to be on the camera. You can just talk about, well, this is a hot water installation we did. They did have a storage tank here, but we actually found it was a better situation to put in a instantaneous heater because there's family's growing and they're always running out of hot water heater. The gas supply was fine, so we just bought that gas supply. We had to upgrade this part of it and the meter, the regulator. But like, you can talk about this stuff all day. So start talking about it and capture it.
Yeah, okay.
It's easy. That's content creation. Like, that's the stuff that will help you engage. And you'll be surprised, and you can hold me to this. Once you start doing it, you'll enjoy it.
Well, look, I can concur because I started videos marketing 4 years ago, and I was terrified, and now I quite like it. Exactly. I enjoy it quite a lot now. So I'll agree. Look, you're right. You're winning the arm wrestle. I'm coming round.
We fabricate beliefs and fears within ourselves that it's a complete fabrication. It's made up. Like, what? Yeah. I'm afraid I don't. Like, pulling out a phone and talking about a job that you've done is completely different to standing on a stage in front of a lectern in front of 100,000 people and delivering a speech. It's completely different. Don't throw them in the same basket.
Yeah. I had an interesting experience the other day. I won a new client, and we have a private Facebook group for my clients, you know, to talk to each other. And he did the same. He just shot himself talking to his camera video, said, "Hi, everybody. Just joined Jon's program. Here I am. This is me." Told us a bit about his business. It was 2 minutes. What he does, what he's hoping to achieve by being coached, all that, and posted it into the group. And I was like, "Oh, wish I'd thought of that." Why don't you all do one?
Exactly. So, look, it's not that hard at the end of the day. The thing is, as well, like, if you're worried about it, like, it's a recording. It's not like we're going live here on national air. Like,
that's right. You can
live on television. Like, if you screw it up, just push stop, delete, and re-record. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. All right. So
we've digressed horrendously.
We've digressed. So talking about me being ready to lose the arm wrestle and be persuaded. You know, I'm feeling like I'm there, right? So I came to this ready to, change the advice I give to my clients, which is, it is worth investing in, I think. I think the two things I want to come away with is it's worth investing in, and it's not as difficult or expensive as you might have thought, or as I might have thought.
Exactly.
To do, right? Because people like you can help.
Exactly. And the thing is,
take some of the pain away.
like, it's people think when they say you should invest in this, they think, shit, I got to remortgage the house. But the reality is, like, the investment more comes from a paradigm shift in your thinking and your process operations. Like, it's not so much, it's not going to cost you a lot of money to do this. It will cost you having to learn and change some of your process if you want it to work the right way. But it's not so much like I need to mortgage the house and get this sort of stuff done.
Can we talk about that a bit more, about how much it actually costs? Because most of my customers are ready to change the way they think and learn. They are often afraid of the financial investment and the time cost it's going to take from them, from all the other shit they've got to manage as well. So, it would be good to understand. I know you don't like to be pinned down on prices without knowing a customer and how much work's involved, but if we could give some ballparks, I think that would be helpful.
Obviously it varies depending on the company, but I've never done an automation setup yet. Oh, that's a lie. I've done a couple of huge ones, but typically speaking, for under $4-5 you can have it all customized funnels and stuff built for you.
Okay, and then all you've got to do is write content, right? And
we'll do that as well. It's all done.
Okay.
So the fees for ongoing, obviously, management, if you want us to run newsletters or that kind of stuff, to how many newsletters, what frequency, blah blah blah, like, it really depends. But it's
that's not bank breaking though, is it?
No, it's not bank breaking. And like, from a technology point of view, the technology might start out at $100 a month, from the providers that we set up with, and depending on how many contacts you've got in your list, etc., it may go up according to that, but very rarely will it cost you, much more than a couple $100 a month. It's not expensive.
Right.
Technology.
Okay. So that's not an awful lot. The more you have done by somebody else, the more that's going to cost, which is a normal thing.
Correct. So, if you want to bootstrap it, then there's training there which can take you through it. Sure, whatever. And it's good training to have anyway, because it gives you an idea of how it works. But you don't have to do it yourself. It's not like. But again, it's not super tricky.
I don't do mine myself.
You did or didn't?
No, I don't. No, fuck no.
No, exactly. Me neither.
Yeah. If I can give you a bit of business coaching advice, everybody, do what you're good at.
Right.
Not stuff you're not good at. There are the people there who can do that stuff for us, right?
Yeah, it's nice as well, like having a dashboard where you can see all this stuff, right? Like, reporting has, I know this is a completely different conversation, but like, data and reporting has been the number one biggest positive change that I've had in my businesses ever. And when I started, I was very much digging my head in the sand and didn't want to see things like profit and loss and all this kind of stuff. But this is, again, like being able to see how many people in your database, how many people have opened the newsletter, what sort of email headings get a better engagement, what sort of frequency do they like, all this kind of stuff. Like, it does kind of, when you start noticing these trends, it does become interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe that's me being a bit of a nerd, but I used to be a plumber, right? So I can plumb and be a nerd.
I'm just a straight nerd, unfortunately. Look at these hands. There's been no trades here.
No, that's right. I can tell by the glasses, although I've got mine right here. So
that's just oldness, mate. Well, look, I think we're done, aren't we? I think we're heading to done. I do feel persuaded. I do think I'm going to change my advice. I'm going to extend my enthusiasm for automation and database and data collecting to everybody, not just to the builders with the long sales cycles. Yeah. And even the repeating business, your architects and the like. I used to say that's really just phone calls and cups of tea. And I'm thinking that email and CRM type stuff is useful there as well, from the collecting data for your asset to your customer lifetime value increasing.
What we do find, and I should have qualified it, gone deeper into this back when we were talking about it, but there is definitely a relationship which works better from automation, if you will. So business to consumer, we find gets really good results. Business to business, you're probably going to get less so. Yeah. So what I mean by that is your local real estate agents or strata managers or, property managers or whatever, they're probably going to be less stoked to get some email broadcast from you than residential homeowner, depending on how you address it. And so
that's right. You could probably write appropriate content for them.
Oh no, and don't get me wrong, you have to write appropriate content for them because it's a different conversation.
And you're right, I agree. If I was advising, I'd be saying the email content can quite easily support and enhance, the phone calls and the cups of tea that you've got to do as well.
Correct. Exactly right. So don't be but that said, again, test and measure. We don't know until we try. You don't know until you try. And it's different, sadly, although we have good data across the board as to, trends and stuff, it could be completely different for you. So you need to get out there and test it, right? But there's no right or wrong. What combination of things is going to work best? Sure, dropping into your strata agent and, taking them out for beer on a Friday once a month or whatever is going to be a really good relationship builder. Whereas you're less likely to go out with your, the lady you just cleared a block sewer with and take her out for a drink, unless maybe, I don't know, who knows? Maybe
you'd have to do drink a lot of beer, wouldn't you?
Well,
for the investment to be worth the return.
Depends on the customer.
We'll leave her alone. Yeah, we'll leave the customer out. This one depends who she is.
But anyway, you get what I mean. So it all fundamentally, the backbone of this whole conversation is be in control of the asset. Be in a situation where if you want at any point, or you can foresee at any stage down the track where you may want to implement what we've spoken about, start collating that now, because come the time that you want to pull the trigger, it's too late. You've got to go back to square one and start again.
Right? Yeah. So, and you collect the data. How do you collect your data?
Well,
can you collect it in your service mates and the like, or do you need to do something different?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of talking more from a marketing software perspective at the moment. But for example, somebody completes the web form on the block drain page. Okay, bang, we know they're interested in block drain. So now we've tagged them in our system, So
so you need to get stuck in and do this stuff. You need to get a database of some kind and do that stuff.
Well,
your service mates aren't going to cut it, are they?
Well, look, don't get me wrong. Service mate is fantastic for
but it's job management, right? It starts after the job.
Exactly. And getting paid on site. If you're not getting paid on site, you're a clown. Obviously that's for residential, maintenance sort of style business doesn't suit so much commercial, but man, chasing debt, forget it. This technology can help you alleviate all of that crap.
All that. Absolutely.
But from a marketing point of view, okay, I want to send out information. I want to engage with customers. I want to re-engage with customers. You can't re-engage with service mate. It doesn't give you the ability to do that. It's not designed for that. There's other tools.
No, that's not its job. Yeah,
exactly.
It's very good at its job. That's not it.
How do I nurture people before they become a customer? This is what we're talking about. It's that sort of technology. So at the end of the day, just be in the position of power, be in charge. It's your asset. It's your business. Treat it like that. Set the stuff up so you've got it.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
All right. Now, how do they do that? Let's give them a call to action.
We'll head across
good little marketers that we are.
tradiewebguys.com.au. That's TRADIE. webguys.com.au. Head across to the contact page, complete the form. There's a page there on automation. You can go to /automation. You can have a look around.
Will you get some automated emails if you do that?
Yeah, you just get spammed. Yeah, no, and to be honest, you'll see, obviously I'm in a slightly leveraged position where we run a business podcast for tradespeople. So we create a ton of relevant information. So the information you get from us is very rarely actually in relation to products and services. It's more information based because we know that people, once they know, like, and trust us, they'll engage us. That's what happens. And this is right. It's not different to you guys. At the end of the day, small business is small business. Sure, you're swinging hammers and I'm punching away at keyboards or whatever, but fundamentally it's the same thing. So build trust and rapport, get people to know, like, and trust you, and then let them pull their wallet out.
I agree. If they're interested, they'll come and get in touch, right? There'll be a call to action. If you want to contact us, here we are, but there's not a lot of pressure in what you send out.
Mate, especially with tradies as customers, you and I know the bullshit filter is strong. You guys do not want to be spammed with your stuff, and so we don't spam you with stuff. But then you go back into an e-commerce situation, and bang, every 10 minutes you get a notification or something saying, "Hey, buy this, buy this, buy this." It's not what it's about, and you don't have to be like that, guys. When you think automation, you don't. You can customize that experience for your clients according to the frequency, the relevancy, the consistency.
And that's part of the thing, right? Deciding how often to send stuff to.
Exactly.
I make a clear decision once a week,
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you're never going to know until you start. You'll get people going, "Hey, mate, you survey them. Oh, you send this stuff out way too often. Cool, let's cut it back. Or, hey, you don't send this stuff out enough. Okay, cool. Let's ramp it up. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to know. You can't steer a parked car.
All right, Matt. I really enjoyed that.
That was the best podcast I've done all day.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered.
No, it's been good. It's a good conversation. I think it's very relevant. And I think,
Yeah, I think so.
I think having sort of two sides of the scenario there, but neither are right or wrong. But I think, when you can kind of marry them together, you can form quite a powerful.
Yeah, look, I thought it would be fun, right? I came to be persuaded. I'm a business coach and I'm a generalist. You're a digital marketing specialist. I can learn from you. I can change what I advise. I like it. I think that's how the world should work.
I'll send you the bill.
Yeah, really.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.